Welcome back to the King's Podcast, the Wellness Dive with Lucky. I'm your host, Esther Lackie. Now, it's December, and most of us know what that means. The holidays are here with us. Most of us are happy, we're merry, and we can't wait to be with our loved ones. However, this season brings with it its own challenges. And one of those is loneliness, especially if you're alone, if you're spending the holidays alone. Today, we are joined by Dr. Rebecca Steingiesser, clinical psychologist at King's. And she'll be taking us on a deep dive into holiday loneliness and how to maneuver around it. Dr. Steingiesser.
Or just Dr. Rebecca is fine.
Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
What are your plans for the holidays for you and your family?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Actually, I'm going home to Australia because my dad is having surgery.
Oh, sorry to
But I
hear.
will be back for Christmas time, so that
Mhm.
should.
So you're spending Christmas in Dubai?
Christmas in Dubai. It's the best time of the year. The weather is the best.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
I quite like it here.
Let me ask you, what's loneliness in general?
So loneliness is one of those experiences that's extremely individual and extremely unique to the person who's experiencing it. I would say that most of the time when people say they feel lonely, it's because they feel like they're lacking an attachment or a connection or a relationship that is meaningful to them. Either they are away from that person that they have that attachment with, so like why we would say we're feeling lonely if we're away from our families as expats here or feeling homesick. But there's also the loneliness of not having sufficient attachments in your relationship. So there's social loneliness, feeling like you don't have enough friends around you or don't have a community or sense of belonging. There's also emotional loneliness. So if you're feeling as though you're not having the kind of close connections and relationships that are meaningful to you or that you see other people have that you feel like you don't have enough of. And there's also a unique one, which is existential loneliness. So this is the recognition that we are essentially, and quite depressingly, alone in the world. So we come into the world essentially alone and we leave the world essentially alone. And this is when we start to question, what will that be like? What will my older age life look like? And what will my ending be like? So there's that kind of loneliness, which is, I think, a part of loneliness that not very many people necessarily can put into words is that they experience, but there is that existential questioning that does come when you are experiencing loneliness.
And why is it this loneliness felt more, especially during the holidays? I mean, we're in Dubai, in the UAE, so we cannot necessarily say December holidays, but let's look at Eid during Ramadan. It's all the same. Why does this loneliness sort of it's felt so strong during these times?
So it's a really, really interesting phenomenon. And we find this also when we would least expect it. In Dubai, during the summer months, we experience what we call SAD, which is seasonal affective disorder. So you'd expect that in the summertime, people feel happy, right?
Yeah.
But actually, people in Dubai feel the opposite. It's what
Wow.
we would feel like if we were experiencing a true winter, where the weather is actually just not conducive to fun or in being able to enjoy yourself and being able to go out very much. The same sort of thing happens during holiday periods. And that is also because as expats, we're limited in many ways. Some of us cannot travel home. Some people who work here do not have leave abilities to sort of get out and about and travel cost-wise. It's extremely expensive at the moment.
Oh,
Also, at the same time that it may not be possible to go home. And even if you were able to go home, there's also this sort of discomfort that comes with feeling like you're a little bit of an alien in your home life, especially as an expat when you've gotten used to a life here and the way you do things and the way you experience life is just very different. So going home has its challenges about how do I fit back in to my home life, to my family, to my friendship groups. At the same time, when you're re-entering a home life, you're going to be faced with what many people would talk about, the things that they may have left their home country for, which could be complexities in family dynamics, tensions. Everybody's got their family stuff, and that's very, very normal. And that becomes very obvious when people are hoping to have a fun time with the family, but then they go home and all of a sudden things are just not as simple or as easy as you would expect it.
So actually, we are not talking about Dubai being a transit place, where we only have expats. The ones who cannot go home are the ones who are feeling lonely. So we are also looking at those who are going home. They're surrounded by loved ones. Yet still, they feel lonely.
Yes.
I didn't know that happens.
Yes, and it's an interesting phenomenon. I think it's also a lot to do with expectation.
Mm-hmm.
So what we expect holiday periods to feel like is not always what it actually ends up feeling like.
Happy, merry, cherry, everything,
Exactly.
you know, sunshines and
Precisely.
yeah.
And if you think about people who are actually experiencing anxiety and depression in their life, irrespective of what is whether it's a holiday period or not, they take those feelings with them even when they go on vacation. It is not something that necessarily just disappears because it's a fun time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're navigating complexities in their feelings, in their relationships. We also have to remember that we have social media. And on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, Snapchat, and all the stuff that the young people are into now, um, people are basically showing off their highlight reels of their
Mm-hmm.
life and what their Christmases or holiday periods look like.
The make believe.
Yes, exactly. And the beautiful decorations and all the presents and all the sort of lovely family time that they're
Mm-hmm.
experiencing. But we only see a snapshot of that reality.
Yeah.
Yet we look around and think, but everybody's having such a wonderful Christmas.
Why am I
Why am
not?
I not?
Yeah.
Why am I not feeling
Mm-hmm.
happy like
Yeah.
they are? What's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
And start to sort of maybe over evaluate their life, their circumstances. And that is when it becomes less rooted in reality and
Mm-hmm.
more in what people hope their hopes and expectations actually are around the
Mm-hmm.
holiday period.
So let me ask you, what could happen if this loneliness went to the extreme?
So loneliness is one of the main things we look at when
Mm-hmm.
we try to understand someone's psycho-emotional experience. So
Mm-hmm.
what's happening for them psychologically. One of the main protective factors that helps prevent us from becoming unwell physically and mentally is having support. We always look at family support. Do you have a partner? Do you have someone who can protect you, to take care of you, who can, sense if something's not going right for you and be able to provide you with the support that you need? Loneliness, and there are loads of studies that have evaluated this,
Mm-hmm.
given that we are humans that are actually meant to be, we're social beings, we're meant to be with others. We come from families, we create families, we also create social families. So connection and friendships and that kind of familiarity with other people is really important. So
Mm-hmm.
there are studies that have actually shown that people who experience loneliness actually have physical health difficulties. So
Oh.
high cholesterol, even hypertension,
Mm-hmm.
heart disease, and things like that, as well as cognitive difficulties. So we've got people who experience cognitive decline earlier.
Mm-hmm.
People who may be at risk for Alzheimer's disease might actually end up having Alzheimer's disease a little bit earlier. The onset of the symptoms might be sooner
Mm-hmm.
than they would be for someone who isn't lonely, who doesn't experience those sorts of difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
Memory problems, all sorts of things come with that. So anxiety, depression, even psychosis and other very extreme psychological disturbances can actually occur in people when they're experiencing long periods of isolation or loneliness.
Okay, all right, thanks. So you just mentioned about the effects of social media.
Mm.
But then again, there's this feeling, you know, when you're feeling down, you just want to go through social media to brighten up your day or to
Yeah.
sort of kill time.
Mm-hmm.
Would you advise for that or against that?
I would say during the holiday period, it's pretty important to switch off. So we have to switch off from our lives because this is a different this is a different stage of the year. This is a
Mm-hmm.
different time of the year. And because we're talking about it being about family and connection and really fundamentally about relaxation as well and fun and joy, we really do need to switch off from the things that become part of our normal routine.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have social media. I would say the majority of us would have social media as part of our daily routine. It's our wind down time.
Yeah.
It's for some people the way that they start the day to check in with the world around them. But it isn't the healthiest thing to do during the holiday period, precisely based on what I mentioned before about the fact that we are not really seeing reality in
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
in the Instagram posts that we're seeing. And there is a lot of drive towards having a bit more of a realistic view of what life looks like. And there are some really great influencers and people on social media who actually demonstrate the reality behind, what
Yeah.
it's like to raise small children, or the reality behind being, a full-time working mum and the challenges that come with that.
Mm-hmm.
And more people are talking about holiday sadness or anxiety and loneliness that comes with actually not really feeling that
Mm-hmm.
their life really looks like what they're seeing on social media.
Okay, so there's loneliness and there's solitude. I mean,
Mm.
how do you differentiate between this?
So solitude is also a choice. Some people choose to live alone, or they choose to live a life of solitude, and that works for them if their personality kind of is aligned with that.
All right.
There are many people who choose who would not like to be lonely but experience loneliness, and that is something that they struggle with because it isn't something that they ever wished for or ever imagined their life would have.
So solitude does not mean one is lonely.
Not necessarily.
It's a life they've chose.
Yes, not necessarily.
Thank you for that. I hope somebody somewhere is watching this.
Yes. Well, some people actually choose to go for periods of solitude. They go to
It's lovely.
retreats and
It's lovely.
and sometimes
It's
people just
refreshing.
need quiet.
Yeah.
And especially those ones where you just don't talk for a week. That would be
It's amazing.
a real test.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is for the most part, it is a choice.
When people find themselves lonely during these times of the year, how can they escape that? How can they deal with that?
So I would say that we need to really look around what we have in our lives and focus on gratitude. So focusing on what we have, what we appreciate, and what we also would like more of. It's also good that the holiday periods tend to happen at the end of the year. And maybe if it's in a different cultural religion or things like that, it could be in the middle of the year, but it's still usually the best times are around the end of the year when we have those celebrations. It's also a time to reflect on what you would like your life to look like moving forward. And that may involve working harder to make social connections, putting a bit more effort into your social relationships, not expecting things to come to you, but also putting the energy out there for what you would like to come back to you in return. Making contact with family. It's also a really good time to heal old wounds, to reconnect with family members or friends who you haven't really gotten along very well with, and how to put aside some of that. I think if you can reestablish relationships and put the extra effort in, a lot of people will find that the loneliness that they're experiencing can be managed and actually maybe eliminated to some extent.
So basically, they should just open up and reach out.
Exactly.
What if, let's say, it's a person who's not, their personality is totally different. They don't like reaching out or opening up. They're just used to being, by themselves.
Yeah, and I think...
And surrounded by those they love, family, friends, and whatnot. And this time of the year, let's say they're not around. So it's just that personality.
Yeah, so if you are a bit more of an introverted character, or you struggle a little bit with social anxiety, or even just don't feel very confident going out there and making friends or extending out to others and reaching out to others, it can be tricky. But I think most people, introverted people who may be listening and watching today, would probably say that even they would have a few people in their circle who they could reach out to. And knowing that they might be a bit introverted, they could always ask the other introverted friends to help them engage with or connect with other people who are a bit more like-minded. So you can have a very wide group of introverts hanging out together. But it isn't easy, and sometimes people do need a little bit of coaching with that and a little bit of extra support. So if they can reach out to the people who they feel that they can trust, it could be colleagues, it could be friends, it could be anyone in their life who they really feel connected with, to help them out in extending that. That's probably the best way to help manage that.
Would you advise for or against somebody reaching out to these social media groups?
It depends what the group is. So I would say always look for authenticity. And I think this is why social media is such a risky thing to have in life, and especially in this generation that we're raising children in and going through ourselves, because we don't always know what we're going to come across and what type of people we will become exposed to. I think it's important that we reach out to people, or follow people, or become parts of groups that feel authentic, that you feel connected to. I very much support people who decide to go through their social media and remove people that they don't enjoy following, or that bring something up in them. So, if you notice that jealousy or envy or uncomfortable feelings keep coming up when you're observing a friend or another person on a group, and their social media account is just bustling with all the stuff that is bringing all these negative feelings up in you, just unfollow. So I would say the more that you are looking for authenticity, seeking out what feels real and genuine, then the more likely you will actually be able to benefit from that social media experience.
So I'll go back again. How can you keep a positive mindset to get through the holidays?
So one of the things that actually drops off during holidays is routine. And actually routine is fundamental to humans feeling good. And it's one of the things I talk about with my clients all the time. What does your routine look like?
Mm-hmm.
So when we travel, we get out of routine. Oftentimes we experience jet lag if we're flying a lot. We're in other people's houses, maybe if we're visiting family and staying over, or we're in our hotels, we're out of our comfort zone. And the things that we tend to lose balance with is exercise, eating well, making sure that we are sort of taking care of our emotions by engaging in mindfulness, meditation, yoga, journaling, all the sort of general things that we would like to have in our regular schedule that might drop off during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it's really important to take stock of how you're feeling as regularly as possible. Stop in a moment and reflect. And if you're able to get out into the nature as well, that's fantastic. Have walks on your own, go out and spend a little bit of quality time with yourself. Self-care can drop off, especially if you're putting other people's needs first in the holiday time.
Mm-hmm.
And just following what your body and what your mind is asking you for. And if it's reprieve, if it's rest, if it's just a walk alone, just to gather your thoughts, reflect, be a bit introspective, I highly recommend that you just block out time in your day during the holiday period for that.
All right. Thanks, Doc. Now, before I let you go, I have this little friend. She's been feeling down lately. She
Right,
denies it.
right.
But I'm so sure it's not the weather outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to help her. I've given
Okay.
her all the chocolate chip cookies in the world, the gingerbread man.
That's where you're going wrong.
Yeah, what should I do? I don't know what to do with her.
Sugar feeds the problem, doesn't it? No, I'm kidding. Sugar is good. Um, so it's very difficult because when you've got someone who you care about, who you see maybe going through something or is suffering in some way, they may not see it themselves. And that can be a hard conversation to have. So I would always say, approach this friend with sort of genuine interest and curiosity about what might be going on for them. How are they feeling? Perhaps they are experiencing a bit of anxiety
Or
coming up
maybe
with
they're just
family
missing
time.
their loved ones.
Precisely. And sometimes being able to resonate, if that resonates with you, to share your own experience about that. You know, I've noticed the end of the year, people are very stressed out. Everyone's wrapping things up with work before they travel,
Mm-hmm.
packing and organizing things and Christmas presents for teachers and so on. And it's a busy, busy time.
It
So
is.
people
It
are
is.
a bit more on edge.
Mm-hmm.
People are also getting sick quite a lot at the moment because of
Yes, they are.
the winter flus and viruses and things like that. So we're not really seeing the very best of all of our friends and the people around us right
Yeah.
now. But if we're really concerned that this is more than just end of year stress, and this is something that you've noticed on a number of occasions, that's the time when I would sort of just go up to the friend and see how they're feeling and if they need anything and how you might be able to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes getting them away from the environment they're in can be just everything that they need. I would also say we need to take advantage of the weather. The sunshine in
It's
Dubai.
lovely out there now.
It's really beautiful
It
right
is.
now.
It's
So even
lovely.
if
Yeah.
if you've got a colleague who just doesn't seem like themselves, take them out to the bench outside, sit out in the sun and have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Just sometimes being heard and just feeling like someone's there to listen to you is everything that you need. And if it's more than that, and if they feel like they need support, then encourage them to go and seek some support from a psychologist or a therapist of any kind who might
Mm-hmm.
be able to help them.
All right, thanks. So, lastly, what would be your advice to anyone who's dealing with this, with a holiday loneliness, especially if they also have mental health challenges on top of that?
So this is one of the things that's really, really critical because if you already acknowledge or notice that you have emotional challenges, whether it's anxiety or depression, or just maybe just not at the best stage of your life at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to think about how loneliness is going to impact that further and maybe even expect it to. So I know some of my clients going into a stressful period of time might actually go in to their psychiatrist and ask for an increase in their medication, let's say. Or they might come back to therapy and say, well, give me let's go through the self-soothing strategies or the coping strategies that I know about, but I just need a reminder of.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a little bit of a wrap up before the holiday period about what have we done, what do we know, what usually works for you, what doesn't, what can we adjust, and making sure that their self-soothing toolkit basically is up and ready to go to arm themselves and to protect themselves from what they know might be a bit of a stressful period.
Mm-hmm. All right, doctor. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much
And
for
happy
having me.
holidays to you and yours.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you
care.
so much.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you had it. Dr. Rebecca Steingiesser. If you're facing loneliness during the holidays, reach out to those closest to you, whether they're near or far. just reach out. Don't go through it alone. We are all here for you. And if you'd like to have a chat with Dr. Rebecca, you can get in touch with her here at Dubai Hills Hospital. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. Goodbye.